Tonight on the Daily Wrap, is Ben Carson making a late summer move on the Donald? Iowan voters suggest the answer may be a resounding yes. And is a wall along the southern border all we really need to stop illegal immigration? Not according to Scott Walker, who has some blueprints for construction along the Canadian border. And after 30 million big ones spent in the in the wall-to-wall advertising campaign to stop the Iran nuclear deal, is Obama still winning the war? All this along with viewer comments and yay and nay tonight, because this is the Daily Wrap live from New York City. And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Rick Unger. Joe Concha has the day off. My co-host tonight, you know her, you love her, the beautiful and talented, I'm just going for it tonight, right? Heather Hansen, Philadelphia's finest and America's pundit. Sitting to your right tonight, who we got here? We have chief strategist at Bellpoint and new to the Daily Wrap, his first appearance, David Nelson is here. Finally, he's a Forbes.com columnist and an Emmy. Why do we always say you're an Emmy winner? I don't even believe
does anybody else have an Emmy on his channel?
Well, apparently I haven't brought it. He is, of course, Emmy winner Bill Tucker.
Yes.
So welcome, everyone. All right, let's get right to the Daily Download. So just when it looked like the entire GOP nomination process was being swallowed whole by Donald Trump, a new Iowa poll out today suggests that the campaign of accomplished neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson, a campaign that has been maintaining a low-key approach throughout the summer in contrast to the Trump extravaganza, may be on the rise. According to the Monmouth University poll, Carson has now pulled into a dead heat with the Donald, as each is now registering 23% of those likely to participate in the Iowa caucus. What's more, Carson is registering an astounding 81% favorability rating, even as Trump's favorabilities have risen from 47% to 52%. Heather Hansen, is it possible that Ben Carson is now ready to make his charge and depose Trump as the frontrunner in the GOP race?
I think anything is possible in this election. I think that we have seen that the public does not want a politician. You know, the top three people are Carson, Trump, and Carly. I think that we're going to see a lot of ups and downs, although I think we'll continue to see the non-politicians bringing it in Iowa. I think that's what they want.
David, you know, the one thing that we keep seeing here, and there's just no getting around it, we're seeing it particularly in Iowa, where Trump and Carson are both tied. Carly Fiorina is now running a third. The one thing they all have in common is they're not professional politicians.
Heather makes a great point, because that is really the one thing they all have in common, and it's what the American electorate wants on both sides of the political divide right now. Mm-hmm. I'm encouraged by some of these poll numbers. I think it says something to our society in the fact that Americans are just saying no mas when it comes to Washington anymore. They're looking for something different, and if you have that kind of a message right now, certainly Trump does, Ben Carson does, and now Carly Fiorina does, all coming from the other side of the divide. I think it's very exciting for certainly the Republican Party right now.
I think it is exciting for the Republican Party. And Bill, you know, we can agree that there's a real allure to non-politician politicians. Right. But at some point, does the voting public have to go, well, wait a second. Yeah, this is really cool. These guys aren't politicians. They've been successful in other parts of life. And each of those three has indeed been very successful. But don't they have to ask the question, do these guys know what it takes? No. Do they have the skills to be president of the United States?
That's not a qualifier. You don't have to ask that question. These are very successful individuals, each in their own right. They're interesting people. They're compelling people. They're marked contrast in styles. I can't imagine two guys more different than Ben Carson and Donald Trump.
But Dave, doesn't it take a certain temperament?
I think in the end, what it really boils down to be, a chief executive is who you surround yourself with. And I don't care whether it's a country or a corporation. You surround yourself with the very best. I think that's probably one of the failings of the Obama administration was maybe sticking with certain leaders within certain divisions too long and not eliminating the chaff when somebody made a big mistake. Sign of a good leader is knowing who to put on your team and when to keep them and when to get rid of them.
Well, and we saw with President Obama, he didn't have a ton of experience. And once he was elected, I think all bets were off. I think a lot of people said, you know what, we can bring in somebody who doesn't have the experience. This may be a sea change in politics.
But as the saying goes, the buck stops here. And that came from somebody who was president of the United States. Don't you have to, I mean, just look at the three that we're talking about, the three who were leading in Iowa, right? You look at them, Dr. Carson, lovely man, no question about it, despite him saying that people who go to jail come out gay. But a lovely man. Does he have the temperament and the background to be president of the United States? Carly Fiorina, I would say she has more of that.
Right.
You know, she does have more of that managerial, hands-on, get something done. Trump is basically a financier. Yeah, he builds things, but he's a financier. Are you going to sit there straight-faced and say that 2 out of the 3 of those people don't give you pause?
They give me pause for sure, but I think that David's point is correct. If they surround themselves with the right people, if they have the right, because being
But
the
we always
president,
complain that the presidents don't listen to the people they surround themselves with.
well, they're going to have to. But if you look at people who are good in business, that's one of the traits that they tend to have. They do listen to the people who are advising them because you can't be an expert in everything. So you have to have the right people with their expertise.
I think that's a question you could have asked a lot of presidents as they stepped into office. Certainly President Obama when he came in. In the end, it's the organizational structure that you put in place.
Right.
And I
And how
firmly
much you
believe
rely
that
on
at
it.
least 2 of those 3 are going to be able to do it.
Okay. Well, while Carson and Trump have been careful not to offend or insult one another at this point in the campaign, the reemergence of a 2014 tweet posted by Trump could create some real tension between the 2 candidates. The posting on Trump's Twitter account reads, "Sadly, because President Obama has done such a poor job as president, you won't see another black president for generations." Now, one might imagine that Dr. Carson could take a little exception to such a remark. Bill, don't you think
I
so?
think he could maybe take an exception at that.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's I don't, and I have no idea. You know, we keep trying to write Trump off, and every dumb thing he says, he seems to go higher in the polls. So I frankly don't know what people are going to make
How
of
does
this.
that
I think it came from last year. I doubt he meant it as a racist remark, and it's the kind of shoot
Well,
from the
what
hip
do you
at.
think he meant it as? I'm curious.
I think he shoots from the hip. I actually think words come out of his mouth, and he wishes he didn't say it. But then what he does is he doubles down.
Well, that's a
and
great
goes all
thing
the way
for
to
a
the end.
president to do. What a wonderful trait for somebody who
I
wants
said
to be
2 out of 3,
president.
not 3 out of 3.
Oh, okay. You didn't say which ones. That's true.
Interesting that was sent at 12:15 a.m. I
Yeah.
mean, the man doesn't seem to get a whole lot of sleep. Maybe he was just a little sleep deprived. I don't think Ben Carson would be offended by that, though. I think that he would say, you know,
Really?
I would be, because what he's saying is that President Obama was not a good president, and I don't think that Ben Carson necessarily would disagree with that.
Well, as it turns out, Ben Carson may not be the only potential black candidate for president who would take a little bit of exception to Trump's tweet. Let's watch this.
If my grandfather was here right now, he would not let me back down. I don't know what I'm finna lose after this. It don't matter though, cause it ain't about me. It's about ideas, bro. New ideas. People with ideas. People who believe in truth. And yes, as you probably could have guessed by this moment, I have decided in 2020 to run for president.
And that, of course, was Kanye West at last night's MTV Video Music Awards. So what do you think, guys? Will Kanye prove Trump wrong and become the next black American president? Heather Hansen.
You know what? From what we've seen with Donald Trump, you just don't know. You don't even know what he's going to run as a Republican or a Democrat.
You think Trump called him today and asked him to join the ticket?
No, not
Trump
at
West?
all. First of all, he could have said 2050, and he's not going to be held accountable for this. You know, I was a recording artist for half of my adult life, and I can tell you that recording artists, you know, go over the top to rile up the audience. That's what all this was about, nothing more.
Oh, darn, he's
Bill?
not going to really run.
No, he's
I'm
not.
so disappointed. I thought
I
he
did
meant
too. I
it.
thought it was going to happen.
Because, you know, we need another arrogant guy who wants to be president of the United States and says things inappropriately.
Well, I don't think we can put up with a 14-minute rant. I mean, he's competing with Putin for
Actually,
time.
the funniest part was he had to wait for the applause. He stood there for 4 of those minutes waiting for people to applaud. Okay, now that Ben Carson is in second place, we want to know who your choice for the 2016 presidential nominee is. Has it changed? Go to newsmaxpolls.com and cast your vote. Coming up next, speaking of the GOP nomination, 3 candidates talked immigration reform over the weekend. We'll tell you what they said.